Well, hello, and welcome back, everybody. I'm AJ O'Neill, and this is another live coding at work. So let's see. Basically, what we're doing is we have some circular dependency problems that resurface over and over again. Also, it's just kind of hard to follow through the code where things are at and what's being used where. So we're going to make our use of requires more consistent. So we're, instead of destructuring, we're going to restructure. And so I've written some regex, and I'm kind of in the final stages of this. I didn't do this on stream, unfortunately, but I'm going to be going through the code base and rewriting everything that looks like this to have a module name instead, and then all of the instances where this is the part that I haven't quite done yet, but will get done tonight. We're going to replace it with the module name and then that function name. So that's what we're going to do. I think we've got a few people tuning in. Hello and welcome. I'm glad to have you, and feel free to ask any questions, or I don't know. It doesn't have to even be on topic. We're just kind of coding and hanging out. And before we get started, let's have a quick word from our not really a sponsor, Mr. Mountain Dew. Pop it out, my friends. It is time to open focus. All right. Probably a little too caffeinated today, to be honest, but it's okay. A little caffeine never hurt anybody. A lot certainly didn't either. Mixed with a little water, though, just to keep it, I don't know. But we're doing it. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I have here somewhere, I got to find, there it is. All right, so I have my code. I will publish this, by the way. Please bug me if you want it badly, because I don't know how to quite make it generic yet. But I'm going to show you what I've got going on here. Hopefully, actually, I need to open up the project repository. So I've got this code I've been working on. That's my restructure code that's got some regex magic in it, and I'll go over that with you. And then I need to go into the server repository here and just get whatever's the latest. And then I think we actually do want, I think it was a branch I was working on. Honestly, it doesn't matter because the stuff I was working on has been merged in. So we're just going to do restructure requires, excuse me, bless me rather. Well, it's polite to say excuse me, but bless me is the thing I normally say instead, because that's who I am. All right, so I'm there. I'm going to run. I just want you to see how this works here. So I'm going to run this Restructure.js on the code base. I want you to see what it does. So I've already done this mostly, but it's going through, and everywhere that it finds a require, it's going to ask the question, what would you generally like this to be when it gets restructured? And so it's, I just have it kind of, in our specific case, we use util a lot and models a lot. And so typically what I want it to be is camel case the name of the file. And then if it's under util, then name it with util. In this particular case, I just want to call it tx rather than transaction, tx util. And then it goes through and it comes to another one that it doesn't know what to do yet. So what do we want this to be? Yeah, I'm just going to accept CSV util. And then, oh, that's interesting. It should not actually have asked this twice. I'm wondering why it asked that twice. That indicates that there might be a problem. Let me go take a look at this real quick. tx util. TX util did not get saved. All right, so first bug. Huzzah. Oh, wait. Edit anyway? Hold on. Let's do this. Do get init. Let's add restructure. And then let's open it up and then say recover. Whoops, what happened there? And then save. No. What the letter L is going on? hold on. All right, why was it opening in read-only mode? I hit R for recover, enter, and then save quit, and then let's see if it actually changed it. No, it didn't. All right, so we are actually free then to delete this. So I'm going to hit D for delete because there's actually no changes in the swap file, and that's fine. All right. I'm wondering if my module map.save, I just refactored this, and I'm wondering if maybe it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So it's going to take project path and the new name. Project path meaning the path relative to the project, not the path of the project. That might have been a little unclear. All right. So, and here I'm calling it abs path. I've got some bad naming stuff going on. Ah, indeed. So what we need is to do .map. There we go. That was just a little bug that I had when I refactored this. I didn't copy that over. Okay. So let's try this one more time. We're going to try this a bunch of times, actually. So txutil, csvutil. Great. Okay. Now it works. So all the other ones, I've already gone through this process with. Actually, I'd gone through the process with all of them. I just wanted to show it again. So here's a list of anything that resolves to this require. So the project being the initial dot that everything is relative to. So I parse out the string. Anywhere there's a require, I parse out the string. And then I, based on the file where that the path where that file was, that it had the require string, and then resolve that string relative to the root of the project. So this way, anywhere throughout the code base, these are basically all the things that get required, which doesn't seem that many. It seems that there ought to be more of them, about a couple hundred more, but maybe we don't have as many destructured requires as I had previously thought. What's up, Noah? How you doing? Good to see you again. Feel free to ask questions, and also we can go a little bit off topic too if you happen to have something else come to your mind today. Something I like to add to the chat at the beginning is, what would you like to learn today? But I guess a lot of you are joining in because you want to learn about how in the world would you abuse regex to solve this problem. And that I can help you with a little bit. Anyway, so then what I'm doing is, as it's walking through the file directory or the file structure, I just have it ask, what would you like this thing to be named when it's restructured? So we've got that. And then I will show you real quick before I move into adding additional code. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Now, granted, it is kind of a hack job. This is not code that I'm necessarily proud of, but it's probably quicker than editing all those files by hand. Maybe not. At least, hopefully, less prone to error. But let's see if I can find the regular expression, the magic regular expression here. I'm probably just going to have to look for, like this maybe. There we go. Nope, not that one. All right, yeah, here we go. So here's the the parser that I wrote. So there might be code that looks like this. Let A, B, C equals require blah, blah, blah. And then what we get out of it is something that looks more akin to this, although I may need to update that example. And so this is the terribly nasty set of regular expressions. I don't ever try to do something in one regular expression. That's never my goal. Anytime regular expressions are on the table, should probably be multiple of them because they just look really scary. And regular expressions are write-only code. It is difficult to debug them. So I always like to have an example of this is what's supposed to happen. And then if it's not working, a lot of times I just start rewriting it from scratch because who can read this? This is unintelligible garbage. But basically we're looking for something that starts with var, let, or const that has some spaces and then either word characters or brackets, and then whatever it is until brackets, which includes word characters and commas, and then some spaces, and then equals require. And then there are 3 different types of string that are all allowed. You can have the single quote, the double quote, or the backtick. And then basically whatever there is, except for a closing parenthesis. So I'm assuming that you wouldn't have that in a file name. And then whatever the quote is. And I'm just assuming that you're not going to have a quote followed by an ending parenthesis that is not the same type of quote. I mean, technically you could. It would be valid to have a file name with a quote in it and with a closing parenthesis in it, but I don't think you're going to have that in code, so it's not something that I'm really worried about. So that's essentially that. Well, that is it. That's not essentially it. That is completely it. And then I have another one where I break this down a little bit further. So if it is just let a equals require foo, that's already restructured. But if it's let open bracket a, b, c, whatever, that's where regex is not a Turing complete programming language. We can't have a loop within a regex. So what we need to have instead is have another regex that kind of matches the pattern that we're looking for, and then do some more manipulation on it. So basically this assignment RE, I'm calling these things on the left side here, the assignments. We're going to check to see if what we capture as the assignment is a destructured assignment, which is what this regex is measuring. And if it is, then we are going to restructure it. And the M is for multi-line here, just FYI. Then let's see, where was it? Oh yeah. So I kind of want you to be able to see what this looks like right here. So I'm going to uncomment this and I'm going to rerun my command. That's actually not what I wanted to let you see. Let me try this again. I wanted to let you see kind of how it cleans up, which was right around here. So match assignments RE. Oh, okay, right about here. So let's do console.log. So this is handling the multiple import style, or the destructured style, versus the single import style. That's kind of what we're looking at. So there we go. I'm going to let you see as it goes through the files. There we go. This is what it's finding. So it's finding, this is what the require looks like, including the quotes on either side. And the $sign here is base tag. Anytime you've got a large project, I've seen a lot of crazy solutions, people using mono repos and Lerna and weird require systems. Base tag is really, really simple. It just creates a symlink, and this works on Windows as well because Windows supports directory symlinks as a unprivileged user. It just creates a symlink that's a $sign inside of Node modules. So this means VS Code, Vim, all of the tools that are JavaScript aware, everything works with this. There's no special setup. The module's called base tag, really simple to use. The only caveat is that you do need to add a script to your npm post install, because npm likes to delete anything that it doesn't recognize from the Node modules folder. So having the post install means that when you run npm CI, that you will then still end up with the $sign back again, or if you run npm install for that matter. So here we see this is the destructured bit, and the part that I'm writing now is going to be replacing this destructured bit with the word that we've chosen, the module name, and then replacing the pieces that are in the destructured bit in the code with the module name dot this thing. And I need to do a little bit of testing to make sure that there aren't matches in the code, because a few of these, not too many of them, but a few of them are generic enough that there might be other variables by that same name already. And so I have to do a little bit of testing to make sure that we're not screwing up the code, that it stays good. So, hey, what's up, Forgot? Are you replacing the requires with imports? No, I could do that here, but no, I'm not replacing the requires with imports. The goal is simply to reduce the circular dependency problem. Was twofold. Get rid of our circular dependency problem, because if you destructure something, then when you need to go require this file over here, and circular dependencies are usually the result of a problem. You haven't structured your code well. But the truth of the matter is, you can't always know going in what the exact structure of your code should be and what all the directories and paths should be and how things are going to depend on each other. Sometimes we run into complexities where to be able to move forward, we don't want to have to go refactor how a system of modules relate to one another. And so if you simply don't destructure, then this problem was already solved by Node back in the v0.4 days or so, which was that the export, as long as you don't overwrite export and you don't destructure, which destructuring wasn't available back then everything's going to work out fine, because it will actually, the module.exports instance will get returned to everything that's in the circular import chain, and then they'll run to completion. And by the time they run to completion, everything that you needed will be added to the module.exports. And so this way, even if you do end up having a circular dependency, it's not a problem. But when you destructure, then it becomes a problem. There's all sorts of problems with destructuring. Destructuring imports and requires is a bad idea, point blank. I think that it can work well with inside of function parameters because it helps you to document as well. But when it comes to imports, a package should be a package. If a package is so incoherent that you can't come up with a name for it and have it have valuable meaning as a namespace, then you need to go read Effective Go, the mini book on that has a lot to do with package design. Because it doesn't matter which language you're using, your packages should be coherent. They should make sense. It shouldn't just be random crap jumbled together, right? It's not going to be good for you or for anybody else. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to go into this big nasty file, which I would love to make it less nasty, but I don't know. We'll see. So we'll see what happens. I'd like to get this to a point that other people could generically use it in kind of the way that I'm using it, where when you run it over a code base, it asks you these questions like I just showed. What do you want this to be named? And then goes in and renames all the things. So let me go to, let's see, I'm just going to start from the top and go down. As I've been adding more to this, it's getting uglier, and oh well. All right, so we're at this point right here. So we have changes. This one actually is addresses a different problem. So a lot of times people use ambiguous requires. So for example, they'll do something like this. In fact, this is the norm, which a lot of bad practices are the norm in the JavaScript ecosystem because there's just not a lot of emphasis on software engineering. So if say you have lib, and let's call it CSV, this is bad because it is ambiguous. Does CSV refer to a directory with an index.js, or does CSV refer to a JavaScript file? And I think the reason people were doing this back in the olden days was because there was CoffeeScript, and so people didn't maybe want to write like this, but they wanted to have weird loaders, and so it would load coffee, or it would load JS, or it would load whatever. But that's just a bad idea. Your compile step should be, your transpile step, 1, shouldn't be there, but 2 should happen ahead of time as part of the build. But anyway, so what you should have is something like this or like this, because inevitably what happens in your projects is that you will have a CSV folder and a CSV.js at some point because of some change that you made for some reason. And then you end up, the order of precedence is not clear and you end up with the wrong thing loading. So this part right here actually just detects whenever it sees an ambiguous require, it checks, is this a file or is this a directory? And then updates it to be the correct thing. Hey, Josh, will you clip that part, the explanation about that I just did about the require, the ambiguous require? Well, I don't know what we'll call that. The dangers of ambiguous requires, maybe, or how to fix ambiguous requires. I don't know. Oh, gosh, I picked up a new verbal stutter. Long. All right, I'm gonna not do that. So I'm going to get rid of that. We're going to do something similar for these destructures. And I'm going to try to check does tree shaking help with the destructuring problem? Tree shaking is a big fat lie. Define what you think tree shaking is. Is the effective Go text on Creeds of Craftsmanship? I believe that it is. And I will also... Let's see, Creeds of Craftsmanship. Let me just bring that up real quick. I'm pretty sure that effective Go is on the list. Let's just search effective. Yeah, effective Go. It's right there. So for those of you that are not in the creedsofcraftsmanship.com, right now it just redirects to an issue that I'm keeping track of. Creeds of Craftsmanship. That should, there you go. There's the link. So front end versus back end, tree shaking is just bogus. Tree shaking is something that people say to get you to buy into their nonsense. So tree shaking in theory is this idea that if you require a module, the module can be introspected and the code that is never used can just be gotten rid of. And the idea for the front end is that you could do this ahead of time and then you don't have to ship the code that you're not using. The reality is that tree shaking could be done no matter which system it is. It could be done with require, it could be done with import, because you literally have to walk the code and see where it's possible for something to be using something else. And if you have any sort of subscripting, and by subscripting, I mean something like this, like let's say that you have pkg equals require pkg.js, for example, and then in some place you have pkg_x. If you were ever do something like this, or iterate over pkg, or do an object.keys, or do any sort of operation like that, you would break the ability to do tree shaking. But assuming that you just use it like this, for example, then it does, the whole idea that you're supposed to destructure for tree shaking is just a bogus idea. People may have explicitly written tools to encourage you to write bad code, but it is not that if they have done so, the tool could have just as well been written in a way that encourages writing good code. But people like to say, and if you look into it, most of the times when people say tree shaking does this, that, or the other, if you read the fine print, it actually says our module doesn't really do tree shaking, but maybe one day theoretically it could. So anybody feel free to correct me on that if you know of something where tree shaking actually is working and is providing a benefit, and if I am somehow mistaken that using the import syntax with destructuring actually does make it possible to do something that isn't possible to do in another way. Because as soon as you go into that function, you say it's destructured, your create function is destructured, which would be silly because you don't want a create, because then there's lots of functions that would be called create. But anyway, you'd have to look in the create function and you have to see what other functions it is calling, and then you'd have to not shake away those functions. So it's just, yeah, it's bogus. Okay, so I'm going to go multi-imports. There we go. So if we don't have multi-imports, we can go home now. But if we do have multi-imports, this is the part where I was asking the question. This is where it starts to get really, really hairy. So I'm asking, what should we name? And then whatever the require was, which we just looked at the output of that. And then the assignment list, we saw that. And then the suggestion is just based on, in our particular case, I have this. I wouldn't put this in something that's generic because you might name things differently. But for us, because we have these util and models and we want those to be postfixes to the things that we're importing because a lot of them are the same. So user, utils, user model. No, bless me. Those are the same. So what I want to be doing here is, let's see, what was this one is new name. So if we don't have the new name, we're going to get the new name. And then once we have the new name, now I need to start doing these checks. So the first thing that I'm going to need to do is just see if new name is used anywhere else already in this area of the script. So I'm going to construct a regular expression. I don't think that I need to escape new name because I basically already know what it's just going to be word characters. So I'm not going to put an escape for this because I guess it doesn't matter if I do or if I don't. So maybe I might as well. All right, sure. And then the underscore escape is something that I added myself. Oh no, I didn't actually add that yet, did I? Escape RegExp. Okay, no, I called it this. In an AJ script that I'm developing, escape is one of the things that I extend on the regular expression object with an underscore. There actually was a proposal for it. It was shot down. I don't understand the argument against it. And I asked the question on the not the mailing list, but the discussion list. I probably won't get a response because people probably think that I'm being flippant, and maybe I am. I don't know actually, but I literally could not understand the objection as to why we couldn't have this, because the example that they gave, the code did exactly what it looked like it was supposed to do. So I was like, what is the problem with this? This code functions exactly as you read it. It functions exactly as you would expect. Assuming you're familiar with strings and regular expressions and JavaScript. Anyway, so we're going to need to look for this, but we want to put boundary. Let's see if I can do this. No, I'm going to do it this way. I am just going to have it be new name. And we're going to put boundary markers on either side. And then we want to look, let's see, how do we want this to be? Do we want to find there? Do we want to find multiple matches? We don't want to find it across multiple lines. Each line could be its own match. That would be fine. But we want to be able to find if this new name already exists, is basically what we want. I think we'll just start with this. So let's call this new name RE. And so what the boundary character does is basically say that it needs to be a non-word character on either side, or it needs to be the beginning or the end of a line. So let's say we have account model is what we're going to call this thing. And let's say that account model thing or account model foo already exists in the code. We actually don't care if account model foo exists in the code because that is distinct and different from account model, even though it's a prefix. Likewise, we wouldn't want to worry about foo account model. So we want to match on the boundary so that we can tell that we're getting a whole match on the word and not a partial match on something that's inside of a word. Because if we didn't have these boundary characters, then both account model foo and foo account model would match account model. Whereas if we have the boundary characters, then account model.foo and foo.account model might match, which we don't technically want that to match. Really, on the beginning, I think what we want is either a space or a beginning of line or a space. I guess it could be any number of spaces. That's fine. But then also, that's not entirely true because opening parenthesis could work. Whatever. At this point, let's just stick with boundary. And if we find that things are matching that shouldn't match, then we can kind of decide what to do from there based on what the circumstances are. Okay, so we've got this now, and I think here, do we have access to the script itself? I think we do. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're just going to check to see if script dot, I forget whether we should do script dot match here, or if we should do new name re.exec script, because there's subtle differences between those. If we want to match every instance of it, which we will, then we're going to want to do exec. But if we just want to replace wholesale, anyway, I just need to see if this exists. So if this exists, let's do this. Let m for match, let match equals, and I'll check comments in just a second. Sorry, I haven't been looking at the comments. So we don't need to worry about escaping new name. I did mention, I don't know whether you asked this before or after I said it, but we don't need to worry about escaping new name because it's auto-generated and we know it's only words, and yeah. So I think it's fine. It's going to be fine. Okay, so if match console.log m, and I'm going to say throw new error found. Let's found new name already in, and then I think it's abs path. I'm actually not sure. No, what is it? What is the path? I think I call it short name. Ugh, dir name, short name. What is the name of the file? If we take it from the root, hold on, path name dot slice root. Yeah, so this should be the relative. Short name should be the relative name, the file path of the script. So again, I need to go change some of these names. But let's see if we get an error here. I'm kind of hoping that we do, just so that we can see, but no, we don't. So what this tells us is that all of the names that we have chosen in this file, none of them collide with variables that already exist in any of these files. So there are no variables or properties that have these names. They are distinct and unique. So that's good. I kind of want to, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to change one that's really, really likely to exist already. Let's see if we can find a count. Do we have a count anywhere? Or maybe task. I'm just going to, I'm going to comment this out, so to speak. It's not really commenting it out, but just putting an underscore in front of it. I want to see if this blows up at us. I think it will. No, it didn't. Let's see if I call it something else. Let's see if I just call it user, just because I want to see if it blows up. It makes me think that maybe this is not working, because I'm sure that user is in, well, maybe not in a file where that one is being required. Well, we'll see in a minute, because what's going to happen is and I'll check comments in just 1 second. What's going to happen is we're going to make real changes to the code, and then this is going to fill up with changes, and we can do a get diff, and we can see, did it behave as expected or did it not? Okay, let me check comments here. New name cannot have a \b in it. Yeah, just because of the way the code is. You're right. It would be problematic if new name had a \b in it, but new name realistically can't have, because this isn't arbitrary user input from the internet. This is, you're going to run this on your own code base, or we're going to run this on our own code base. So I don't really have to worry about me naming a file maliciously to attack myself. So yeah. Yes, so we could do .test. .test does exactly what I did. It just says it's there or it's not. But because we're actually going to want to determine where that was and then do replacements and whatnot, that's why I started down the road of either I'm going to be need to use it. I probably am going to need to use either .match or .exec. Well, no, not in this case. If it was there and I wanted to replace it, I might ask the question, say, user already exists in here. User from this require already exists in here. Would you like to rename user? And I'd say, yeah, if user exists from model, I want to rename it to user model. And if user exists from util, I want to rename it to user util. And I would never have just plain user. It'd either be user model or user util. That was something that I was thinking that I was going to do, but I don't think we're actually going to get to that point, to be honest. Let's see. What in the world? What did I just click on? Oops. Sorry, I clicked on something else over here. By the way, I'll give you all a link to the Discord for those of you that want to join in on the Discord. If you want to ask questions that are too powerful for YouTube and Twitch. So I'm going to do Discord. So yeah, thanks Kirglo for that. I appreciate you looking after me. Okay. So sure, we'll go ahead because this is really simple. I'm actually going to go ahead and just take that suggestion, and then we'll grow it out if we need to. All right, check if new name is already used by the countries. In this one, I don't really think I need to do that right now. So the next bit, assuming that we don't ever have to deal with this problem, then what we can do is we can go through the code. Basically, it's going to be the same thing that I did up here. Is we're going to be able to run a replacement. So we're going to be able to do script equals script.replace. And let me see, what was this one in particular? We were going through multi imports, and we were getting, so proj path should be the full relative path. All right. So there's our restruct.assignments. Okay, so what I should be able to do is restruct dot, I think it should be raw assignment. I'm going to have to go look and see what it was, but I think that's what I called it. Raw assignment. Did I put that here? Raw input. Okay, I called it input. All right, so we will escape this because this is going to have brackets in it and stuff like that. This is going to be the destructured bit. And we do want to replace this globally. And what we want to replace that restructured bit with is going to be, let's see if I actually put it in the object correctly, because I may not have. Assignments. It should be new name. So we're going to replace that with new name. And so what this is going to do is take something that looks like A, B, C equals require foo, and it's going to become, so let's say it's like this, it's going to become let foo equals require foo, and then it's going to look for occurrences of A, B, C, and then rename them to foo.a, foo.b, foo.c. So that's the first part. This is actually replacing the require, the assignment part of the require. So that's the actual input, and this is the new name that we've chosen. So we also need to do assignments. Oh, hey, what's up, Blah One? Thanks for following. Anybody else, if you want to give a like, follow, or sub, feel free to do so if you find this entertaining or useful and you'd like to see more. By the way, in the Discord, we do have a content request channel that I try to get through every once in a while. So if you've got an idea for something you'd like to learn about, feel free to drop in the Discord. Look for the content requests channel and let me know. And I will check those comments in just 1 second. I just want to get my head in the right space here. All right, so we got assignments. Yep. So we're going to go through the assignments. And this one's the trickier bit because I'm basically going to be doing the same thing that I was just doing here. But the way that these things are named presently, they have such random names. I think that we're going to be fine because they don't have generic names like create. Hey, AJC Web Dev, you came back and you said hello. Well, thank you. Assignment. There we go. So this is going to be similar assignment. And this does need to be G. We want it to be global. And this is going to be old. What is the correct term for this? Old var. So the old var is definitely going to exist in the code. The question is really, I don't know. I think we're just going to have to do it and see what it looks like. My concern, let's see, how could this go wrong? We don't want to allow it to be any. Okay, if a space comes before it, that's fine. That's allowed. If a open paren comes before it, that's fine. What else? Because we don't want to get where a dot comes before it. In particular, we don't want to allow a dot because if that already exists, let's say it was create, for example, foo.create, we don't want to replace. We'd only want to replace instances of create that don't have a scope to them. And I'm trying to think of the different ways that this could go wrong. And since we use prettier, I think the only things that it could have would either have to be a space or, because technically you could have something like this, but with prettier, it's going to be like that. So space is going to come before. And then likewise, I think with prettier, it's going to do this. I could say, okay, like that maybe. Whoops. I think this might be, this could be, something could be like that. It could be as part of a function call. Trying to think of any other way that this might be used. But basically, we want to capture foo. We want to capture foo like this. We want to capture foo like this. But we don't want to capture dot foo. And we also, beginning of line should be fine. So all of these we want to capture, this that we don't want to capture in particular. And we'll have to just take a look and see what we see. But with that, I think we could do script equals script.replace. Now, we have two problems here because this is going to have I gotta remember how to do this. We don't want to get rid of these things. We want to swap out the assignment. And so if I remember correctly, I think we have to do, is it like this where it's $0, $1, $2? Is that how it goes? And so we would just be interested in $2. I actually kind of forget how this works, so I'm going to need to test that on the console. Let me check comments while I'm doing that. Agenda. Well, hello there. Good morning. Just follow the link from the JS Jabbers. Awesome. You're a sucker for Discords. Yeah, I was not a sucker for Discords until I started streaming. I hate instant messaging in general. But, you know, it's the price you got to pay to have a community or something or other, so. But I enjoy our Discord, though. We have good conversation. I actually like it. But I had to warm up to it. So I'm an old dog. I'm coming into this new world. You know, you hear these grandma and grandpa people talking about, oh, in my day we just had the old rotary telephone. And that's kind of how I feel, except that instead of being 50 years of time, it's 6 months, you know? But back in my day, we ran code on computers. But back in my day, our regular expressions had more backslashes. Okay. So I just want to kind of test this out. I don't even need to do a new RegExp. I just need to take something that simulates what I'm trying to do here and then put a function in and then just kind of console.log. Let's see. $0, $1, $2 if I'm not mistaken. And then let's just try $0 and $2. We'll console.log that. And then I need this string to be something like yo, bo, fo, ho, mo. And this one is going to be something like yo and bo. So undefined is $0. Interesting. Oh, because there it is. Yobobo. Got it. So bo was the third one. Yes, so this is right. The reason this says undefined is because I called replace, but then I just did a console log, not a return. And so the things that matched got replaced. Okay, so yes, we want to return $1, whatever that is. Oh, maybe that's a poor choice of variable name. Let's see, will it work? Yeah, it'll still work. So we want whatever this was, we want to keep it. And then we want to have our $2, but in front of it, we want to have our new name and then a dot. So, whoops. And then put the $sign there. There we go. That's not confusing at all. So I think that's essentially what we want to do. Is there anything else that we need to do? We restructure the destructure, and then we replace all the assignments throughout the code. And then we hope nothing breaks too badly. It doesn't really matter if it does, because it's, you know, all in Git. It's just a trial run. Let me go look at... All right, so we're going to write the script when we're done here. And let's just see what this looks like. I think it's going to turn out great. Invalid regular expression. Unterminated character class. Yeah. Okay. Invalid regular expression. Oh. Unterminated character class. Let me think about that. Ah, yes. The good old I'm an idiot problem. Yes, yes, indeed. Ha! Now we're going to have this error, I bet. I had to escape the escapes. Forget about that when I'm doing strings sometimes because I'm so used to doing the slashes. All right, let's see what this looks like now. Really? It just did that? Did that work? Did I just do this? Did all this just culminate in something that actually works? Okay, that obviously. Okay. Let me check comments here real quick. What are we at? Made so many friends through Discords. It's kind of been life-changing. Ah, well, that's interesting. What is going on in this stream? Lol. Writing a script to restructure code. Yes. Kind of restructuring. So, you know, you can have destructuring in JavaScript. I'm restructuring. Well, this is it right here. You're seeing it on the screen right now. So we're going to take a look. But this was the pretty bit. You know, so we're taking destructuring and we're restructuring, and the value is it makes it easier to grep through the code to kind of follow where things are being used. So if I want to see where are all the places where I'm using anything that has to do with Pandadoc, then I can easily just grep for that through the code and see, well, here's all the lines where I'm calling a function. And if I want to make any other refactoring or renaming, say we got a function that's got a stupid name, it's just easier to do find and replace on it. That's one issue. The other issue is circular dependencies pop up in our code from time to time because there's a lot of just decisions couldn't be made ahead of time. It needed too much experimentation. And so we get these problems with circular dependencies that pop up from time to time because of the destructuring. And so when we restructure them, the circular dependency problems go away. There still are circular dependencies, but it doesn't cause a problem because we don't have to tiptoe around what order something needs to be required in or move something into a function and so on and so forth. Yeah. So, oh, hello, everybody. Oh, full house today. Hey, what's up? How's it going? What is it, Tuesday? I try to kind of figure out what is it, when is it that people join in? Does it have to do with the title? Does it have to do with the day and the day of the week and that sort of thing? But to be honest, I just don't know. Okay, so what we should see, hopefully, I'm actually going to go check something real quick before I continue, before I even finish my sentence. This one had the G in it. Good. So this is going to do every occurrence of. Excellent. So let me get back to this. What did I do? What did I do? Okay, get diff. So what we should see is cascade delete project, get document data, and get account counsel by project. Every instance of those should now be prefixed. So hopefully we see a few of these. Oh, by the way, if you want to get nice diffs like this, delta, webinstall.dev/delta. Let's see. Unfiltered raw AJ. That's right. That's the only AJ that there is. You don't know how true that is. I'm just as terrible in real life as I am on the live streams. Okay. So this actually looks like it's doing exactly the right thing. See, this is one of the things I don't know. You don't have this type of problem among software engineers and other languages. Destructuring doesn't work that way. You don't name things in a way that stutter, because your package name describes functionality, and then the function names are verbs that say what it does. But when people destructure, and I've said this 100 times, but they just destructure everything and they just write really weird names for their functions. It's not that I necessarily blame them, because they're taught this by people that are supposed to be more experienced and teaching them. But with the boot camps, a lot of times they're not actually more experienced. They're just, okay, now this is weird to me, because this one should have been caught. There was a place where if something is required twice in the same piece of code, I actually had a warning that would print out saying confusing require. In fact, let me check and see if we had that warning come out here, because it would print out basically, this is confusing redeclaration. Yeah. So it should print out confusing redeclaration. Oh, I bet it's because we had a single importer and then we have a multi-importer. So once this is fixed, if I run it again, I will probably get the confusing redeclaration warning, because there's a lot of places where, because there are so many requires in a file, rather than going back to where the prior require was, they just added the same require again, but with the different things, the different methods. So here we have one such instance of a confusing redefinition, because it's requiring storage utils, and then it's again requiring individual functions from storage utils. So that's okay. That's one of those things that we can, once this is done, we can easily go through, find those, and eliminate them. And I can go anywhere there's a storage utils, I can replace that with storage util. Let's see. I'll check comments again in just a second. One thing that I used to have, I don't know where it went, was I used to have, I thought I did, maybe I never did, but I thought that this would tell me what percentage of the way it is through the code, so that I could know, do I have another 1,000 lines? Do I have another 100 lines? I should probably get that set back up. It's probably something I need to put in a less RC or a delta RC or something like that. Anyway, this is looking pretty good. So far, I'm not seeing anything glaring that looks like a real screw up. It looks like the tool worked perfectly. I'm just going to scroll through really, really fast. And then I'm probably going to commit this and get it up on GitHub. And I'll probably push it to dev as well, so that I can see if we get any new circular dependency warnings that we weren't getting before, which is quite possible. Well, it shouldn't be possible with this, actually. But once we make sure that, one thing that we have right now too is some of the requires are down inside of functions. We want to lift all those up. I think I got most of those already with some of this tooling. But this seems like it did a pretty dang good job. I'm happy with this. It's not going to, oh, okay. So here's an instance where it did the wrong thing. Okay. So there's a string, and I would imagine this could have happened. Let's see, what does this look like? So here's a very generic term. And because I'm not using a real parser, I'm just using a regular expression, it's not aware of comments and strings and things like that. And that's one of the things that I want to look out for here. Now this one is just a message, so it doesn't matter. But you can see, okay, HubSpot, very generic name, likely to appear in comments and strings and whatnot. HubSpot util.hubspot. So we don't actually want to make that change, but I don't think that there's any way that, as from an automated standpoint, other than having a full parser, which I imagine would be a lot more work if I was to use, I forget what the most popular parser is called. I'm trying to remember. But I imagine that if I used a real parser and I went through, and I could be wrong, maybe it would be less work. I want to do it at some point. It's just my fear is that it's going to be quite a burden to learn how to traverse the syntax tree and interpret this, that, and the other from it. But maybe I'm overcomplicating it in my own head, and maybe I should have taken that approach rather than this approach, because then you can guarantee more perfection. Maybe it would have even saved me time. But this is one of those things where you need a real parser to do it, so that you're not replacing stuff in strings or in comments. And that's the kind of thing that I'm spot checking for right now. So I see there's been a few comments. Let me check again and see what we're at. I did a boot camp and how to name things wasn't even a topic that was touched on. So again, I'm going to post that link to Creeds of Craftsmanship. Look at Effective Go. It's a mini book for Go, and it has a nice section on naming things. Naming things is one of the hardest problems in computer science. I actually did a video on that. I think I put that on the Beyond Code Bootcamp channel. It should be on this one too, the live version, but the cleaned up version I think is on the Beyond Code Bootcamp channel. Aside from give your variables descriptive names, which was said but never demonstrated. Yeah, descriptive is a vague term. Get a setup where the commands are already in your line of sight and you won't need to stop and check them. What? Oh, comments. Well, okay, all right. So I can do this. So check this out. See, I can take my comments. I can put them over here. But I find that this doesn't actually necessarily help. And plus, I do have this. I've been thinking about maybe moving this screen over here. And I've said this before so that you see a little bit more of my face. But part of it, the magic to this, is that I'm turning to face you to talk with you. So here I'm focused on the code. And here I'm focused on you. And so when I'm getting my work done and I'm in that mode of thinking, I can see out of the corner of my eye, I can see little movements and some color changes, right? But I get to stay focused here and I get to choose when I take my time of distraction for the comments. So I'm open to suggestion on that, but it's kind of a feature, not a bug in a way. And sometimes even though somebody has a valuable comment and they can solve my problem, for me, I have I don't know what to say, but there's a feeling of, I need to work through this problem for myself to understand what I'm working through. I don't necessarily need the solution. But I love it when people find, on line 17, this is wrong. And then that wasn't necessarily what I was thinking on, but I missed something there and somebody tells me, and so I like that. So let's see. I wrote small Babel plugins for code replacement. It was pretty easy, actually. So I'd like to know about that. If you've got a good resource for that, I'd like to know about that, because maybe my approach isn't a great approach, and maybe it would be pretty easy to do something else. Granted, there's a lot more than there's the whole walking through the code. There's the building up the list of what should the replacements be. There's a number of those things, but I think I would do well if I learned how to use the parser tools to do replacements and things like that. Because if I want AJ script to be a thing, which I do, then actually what I need to be able to do is to read through JavaScript code and refactor it into AJ script on the fly. And that would be kind of cool. And I'd need to have some sort of tool to do that. My problem with Babel is that maybe it's gotten better this past year, but it doesn't understand JavaScript because it's based on all of the future would be. So for example, in order to understand promises, they have to transpile to yield and generator or something like that first. So then you're losing information about the code. So that's where I have some concerns. So mental shift, stream a decent amount. So I think about this a lot. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's flow, which the streaming is its own type of flow because it's not the same type of distraction. I'm still in the flow. I haven't lost the flow. It's part of this experience. Streaming is its own flow apart from just heads down coding as a flow. And I find that this is actually less distracting to me than what goes on in the office. But yeah, so go ahead and in Discord, give me a link to your streams if you don't mind. Yeah, I do like the interaction stuff. A good starting point for Babel plugins. Thank you very much. So I'm going to bring this up over here. Just give a quick look through. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, what should I do? Because this is something I should take some time to learn. I should give myself an hour or maybe 2. This looks like it's kind of a long document to really just take that in. Maybe lunch at the office. I probably can't do that tomorrow, but maybe the next day. Anyway, let me get back over here. So this is just looking wonderful. I wonder if there's a good way that I could detect things like HubSpot. All right, I'm just gonna. Y'all let me know if you notice anything here. Does anything look at it? Normally I can glance at this pretty well when it's scrolling. Maybe it's because I'm using Delta and it's got all the background colors and stuff. There's not quite enough contrast on it. Or maybe it's my variable refresh rate being too good at what it does or not good enough at what it does. But I'm actually having trouble scanning this right now. But I do want to get through. All right, let's see what file we're in. I have a feeling this is going to be really long. I think I just need to do a whip commit to GitHub to be able to take a better look at this, because I don't know that this is quite the right tool for the job. Yeah, there's some comments there, but that's fine. That actually preserves the integrity of the comment, it turns out. What was this one with objection? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's see. We're at send document links. Let me see. Send document links. So from here down to That's hard to say. Because then I started looking at code again. But that's not very far. How many times does this appear? Send document link. Okay. Well, that way it doesn't... no, that's still pretty long. Oh, but it's here. Okay. So here, from here to the bottom, how many files is that? Oh, that's not the right one. I would need to find the send document links that's on a line. There we go. I have to find it on that line. Okay, here it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, it's kind of a lot of files. I'm basically 0% through this if I'm looking at it correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say, let's just get this up on GitHub. Yeah, so I was right there. Okay, so I was about a third way through. But I think, like I said, I think I'm going to have a better chance looking at this on GitHub because the coloring and everything is going to be just a little bit better. So let's do commit whip restructure imports. I called it imports, requires imports, tomato, potato. Technically they're requires, but yeah. All right, let me get back here. This is cool. Thanks for the link. Wish I knew about this a year ago. Yeah, Babel is a beast. Are we going to have another live battle with Dan? Let's hope so. What do you want us to battle about? Dan and I like doing those. Battle about Web3. Okay, so I'm just going to call you AJ for short because I'm AJ, you're AJ, we're both AJ. I'm going to call you AJ Prime because there's a nice thing about calling you AJ Prime. Prime sounds really cool, like alpha or number one, but prime also means the second one in math. So it's a double entendre. So I can give you AJ Prime, meaning not the real AJ, but it doesn't sound like not the real AJ. It sounds like the better AJ, right? So we're going to call you AJ Prime. So AJ Prime. We had the great blockchain debate. That was not with Dan, but I highly recommend you check that out. That was on this channel. And so check that out. We're going to have a part 2 and a part 3 of that most likely. Yeah, that would be interesting to talk about Web3 with Dan, though. No, you're AJ Prime. You can, that's cool. That's cool that you think you've got some initials that you like to use, but I have dubbed the AJ Prime. You are AJ Prime. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's get back to this. Hey everybody joining in. By the way, as you're coming and going, if you find that this is useful or entertaining, consider a like, sub, follow, etc. I don't want to tell you how to live your life. Actually, I do. I really do want to tell you how to live your life when it comes to code. If you haven't learned that by now, then you haven't been listening. Okay, but we're going to go... Did I not do this right? Right? Restructure requires... Here we are. Restructure requires. By the way, this is probably going to be in total about a 4-hour stream. Okay, I did something wrong here. New branch. Did my whip not go through? What? The letter L. Oh, did Husky fail? Ah, Husky failed. Indeed. Okay. So that's interesting. So here, this was being restructured yet again. Restructured for re-export. Okay. And we got this one here. Okay. Very interesting. I had not considered this case at all, that something would be restructured for export. Okay. Agreed. Yeah, I'm not going to fix that now. So another goal that we have, which is going to be a lot, well, I don't know if it's a lot. I think that this is going to help towards is to get type hint checking and the TSC, being able to use TSC on the code. Huh, that one interesting. That should have been fixed already. I could have sworn that Will did that. Oh, JS hint RC is bad. Globals underscore true. That's okay. Yeah, because TSC, this is one of the weird benefits of running multiple linters. All right, let's see. Let's try this again. Huh. So only that one instance of doing re-exports. Okay. All right, let's take a look. Ba 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 ba. 114 files changed. Well, at least now I get this little indicator in the scroll bar of how far I've gone. And look, I can click viewed. I can just click viewed 114 times. This is going to be the best stream ever. Everyone's going to want to watch me just scroll through this and click the viewed button. Yes. Yes. But welcome to the real world, Neo. This is how we do it. Okay. And, we just scroll back over the same file over and over again. All right, I'm going to click that one as viewed. Alrighty. And viewed. Look at that. This is great. This is the first time I've used this button. I haven't had need to. Yep. Agreed. Nothing egregious there. Nothing egregious here, I don't think. That looks right. Oof. All right, that's 3. Only 111 more to go, folks. Let's have another sip of focus, or 5. Imports did break JavaScript. Chrome is an antiquated browser. Yeah, so that one got me. I think that one got me into some trouble. That one, because here's the thing. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of a weird person to be on a podcast because I have a lot of human failings. I'm not really a people person. I don't really care who you are or what you work on. I mean, I get excited about it if I think it's cool, right? But you could be Steve Jobs. And well, that's a little bit that one's there's a little bit too much pressure and prestige there. But you could be I've met with the equivalent of the Surgeon General in India. That was an interesting experience. It doesn't matter what your station is or how much of an expert you are. I'm going to remain skeptical and have my own ignorant, stupid opinions and let you prove me wrong. And I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay with looking stupid. And we didn't get a notification that the person who's supposed to notify us of what's going on, it just, things didn't work out. And I didn't remember the person from the previous time they were on the show. And it just, yeah, things went bad. Things went bad. I wasn't making a personal attack at him. It's just that Chrome is the antiquated browser now, you know? Chrome is lagging behind in terms of browser standards because Google's model is based on ads and everybody else has adopted a third-party cookie policy that enhances privacy, and Google won't do that. Well, they will eventually because they'll have to, but yeah. Imports broke JavaScript. That's not a controversial statement. Restructuring of restructuring didn't properly get restructured. Yeah, okay. REST in GraphQL and gRPC, traditional server versus containers versus Jamstack. I will keep that. I'm going to put that in our JavaScript Jabber channel right now. I'm going to take a little pause here. JavaScript Jabber. I feel like Jamstack is something that we've covered ad nauseum and still don't have a good working definition of what it is. All right. But I think the REST versus GraphQL and gPRC, maybe. Okay, I'll put that in there. Let's see. Yeah, so gRPC is one I know, well, I believe Google made that up, right? That's their thing, that's their wannabe soap, but better. I think that's kind of a flash in the pan. It doesn't seem like it's really gained a lot of traction. It kind of, GraphQL also, thank goodness, it seems that it's kind of, people are over it. They realize, oh, this actually doesn't really solve a lot of problems and actually makes a lot of things complicated. So I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems that both GraphQL and gRPC have kind of died down and we're back to the sensible, yeah, let's do things the way that is actually really, really easy. I had some big complaints about GraphQL in one of the previous streams with Dash when we were doing the Trello API. Let's see. That looks good. Don't you just love that? That's just wonderful. Just love that. That's the kind of message that I could have put in there, but I don't think that I did. But I do have a little... I do have that on speed dial. Okay. Okay, what am I at? Does it tell me? 9 out of 414. Dang, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I think here's what I'm going to do. Because I do want this to not be entirely boring, because literally the next 2 hours, I think I could just be looking at and checking those files. Let's go ahead and check out development, and let's pull and see what we get. Okay, successfully rebase. Let's rebase from main, and then let's rebase from restructure requires. And then let's just do a nice force push to development. What do you say? Doesn't matter what you say. I did it. It's done. Force pushed. The significance of that is that this will deploy to development. The significance of that is basically nothing, because development is a playground where it doesn't matter if things break. So yeah, there's that. And then let me go log into development and let's see what we CCC. Nope, that's not what I wanted. There we go. That's the one. And I'm just gonna, I don't think we have any thing that's gonna show up in the logs. It's gonna be unsavory. Oh, by the way, I changed my mnemonic for screen. This is taking some muscle memory to get used to, but I used to have it a different way, but now it's RX marks the spot. So now it's RXS. And then it's still awesome. But I had a mnemonic for it previously, but this one makes more sense because it was similar to that, but it didn't flow as well. It wasn't as memorable. They just swapped the letter. Screen dash RX marks the spot. Awesome. And I could call it pirate instead, maybe, instead of awesome, but I've just called it awesome for years, and so I will continue to do that. There is no screen to be attached matching awesome. Uh-oh. Oh, I can't do that. It has to be this way. Okay, never mind. We're going back to the old XR marks the spot. Okay, never mind. Because the sequencing of them is apparently important. All right, so we're going to do fish here. And then let's just take a look at general control. Okay. This one's expected because PandaDoc doesn't have a development environment. But hey, so far, nothing explodinated. So it still loads. I count that a huge win. Let's see if I can actually log in. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. We got something's deprecated. We got some deprecated stuff. I actually need to get rid of some of that stuff. Let's go ahead and click in here. All right. Amazingly, I think that we can, at this point, I mean, we'll have to, time will tell. I definitely need to look through for any more strings, like what we saw with the HubSpot. But, and let me just look for this now. HubSpot. What was it called? Something. It was probably called HubSpot.HubSpot or HubSpot util.HubSpot. There we go. All right, so we're going to, let me check out the restructure requires. I'm going to push this fix up here. And I will check comments in just a second. Okay, HubSpot util.HubSpot. Oh, interesting. Is cron not used? Yeah, we can get rid of that. Removing dead code is always appropriate. Okay. You know what I should do, and I will do, is I'm going to go back to main, and I'm going to print a list of everything that's changed. Because I can look at that list, and I can determine, from looking at it, is this something that's likely to have complications? So that's what I'm going to do. Also, Sentry, never used. Great. Let's get rid of it. Sentry is one of the ones that's likely a dead module in many places now. Oh, also, I just hit my leg against this, so it brought it to memory. But my desk is a standing desk. It's got adjustable height, and so it's not as stable as some other desks are. Actually, it's way more stable than most desks are. But anyway, I drilled some holes in the cross beams. I don't know if that's not the right word, because there's a beam that goes the whole way across, and then there's the beams. I don't know if it's, do you call it a beam? But the supports that go, so the table, okay, the table is long this way, and then I don't know if I'm representing. Okay, so the table's long this way. Look at it like this view, and then say it's this wide, and so there's a beam that goes down the middle, and then there's two legs that stabilize the table. Well, I drilled some holes through and put sandbags, so I've got probably 30 or more pounds of weight through those, and then on the back where the monitors are, this helps balance it out so that little motions don't cause big shaking. So I got some weight on either side. Thought that was kind of a cool thing to do, and since I had time for story time, I'll take. Hey Josh, can we clip that as a story time? How I made my tabletop wobble? I don't know. Maybe. Let's see here. So just double check on this. And I'm going to put this into, we kind of need a fix up. Okay. Fix up, undo dumb things. Hey, Lamong, what's up? Thanks for subscribing, my friend. And to the rest of you, feel free to like, follow, sub, and all that if you want to. Remember, I do want to tell you how to live your life. So I'm telling you what to do. Well, it's mixing metaphors plus statement I made that statement too long ago. Okay. Did I push this already? I think I did push this already. All right. So we've got that. So in the name of just trying to get the lowest hanging fruit possible, we're going back to main, and I'm going to rerun my tool, but this time I'm just looking to get a list of the things that it's changing. So what I want is a list of old vars, essentially. So let's go back up to, oh, this function's so long and so nested and so blah, blah, blah. Oh, well. Let's put this up here. So, old vars. And then we're going to go down to where old var is. And we're just going to say old vars assignment equals true. What? Really? Eh? Maybe I'll do like that. I don't know. By the way, somebody was asking, I think it was Jay earlier, about if X in Y, this type of thing. So here's the reason for that. So I could do undefined, and if I do an object.keys on this, even though it's undefined, it actually is defined. It's defined as undefined. But if I did like this, oh, and actually I think I have to do it as a string. Yeah, if assignment in old vars, that tells me if it is defined or if it is not defined. And it could be defined as undefined. But whether something is defined as undefined or if it is not defined, you will still get undefined if you check it. But here, you would get false to know that it is not defined. That was just something that came up earlier. Okay, so we'll do this, and then at the end, what I'm going to do is console.log object.keys old vars, and then we're going to join this just with a \n, which again, I'm trying to get in the habit of just using backticks everywhere. I'm still not 100% sold on it, but like I said, we only need one way to do strings in JavaScript. Actually, we do need two ways to do strings because you're not allowed to use backtick strings in object key names when you're defining an object literal. So I found out that you're not allowed to do this. So let x equals, hey, oh, now my autocomplete's working again all of a sudden. This is why the only reason I don't use it is because sometimes it's working and sometimes it's not. Now it's working just fine. I don't know what the, oh, whatever. Anyway, you're not allowed to do this. This is not valid JavaScript. I don't really know why, because this is valid JavaScript, or not this, but something else like that. I don't know. But this is valid JavaScript. And I don't know why, because it's a string is a string is a string. If you're going to allow a string, and if you're going to allow things like this, which that, of course, doesn't make any sense on its own, but, you know, whatever, then we should allow template strings. But whatever. It is what it is, what it is, I guess. Okay, and it's been too long since I looked at the comments, maybe, so I'm going to look again. But this is just going to give me something to kind of think on, right? It's just going to give me a big fat list. That's not what I was expecting. That was wrong. I want this at the end of all things. There we go. So then old vars. Yes, right. Old vars needs to be up at this layer of scope. Okay. And then I'm going to need to do a get checkout over here because everything's already done, so it's not going to give me the right output. Okay. What did I do wrong? Cannot access vars before initialization. Old vars. Old vars. I'm a little confused. Oh. Yes. So technically that needs to be up here. So this was the temporal dead zone. When people talk about the temporal dead zone, this is the temporal dead zone. Because technically, I don't exactly quite understand how this is. Yeah. So technically, old vars has not yet been declared by the time that this function runs, even though the function is down here and the declaration is here. The invocation of the function is here. We just need to go back to var. I don't know why I'm using let. The rules are stupid. Okay. Wow, that's quite the number of changes. Can we alphabetize these or something? Oh, exec. That one looks dangerous. Let's do old vars, and I will look at the comments. I promise. I'm going to do it. It's going to happen. Again, I'm going to need to do a get checkout here so that this can actually do its thing. All right, let's check comments now. gRPC was never all that big. I still hear about GraphQL, but definitely not for small projects. I just want to know any place where GraphQL solves a problem. I can only think of one use case, and I don't think that I think there's only one company that has that use case, which is if you actually have a graph that is a real graph of objects in your database. And basically that's just Facebook. And even then, actually, no, I don't see how it solves their problem either. Because when you want to get your friends list, you just want to get a friends list. You don't want to arbitrarily traverse in layers deep. And then even if you did, you want to get data flat. When you request data from a server, you want flat data. You want to rehydrate it on the client side because you use less bandwidth and you can do better caching, et cetera, if you get the data flat. Now, if you find that categorically you're missing some data, it makes sense that, yeah, we want to get an abbreviated person and we want to get a full person. You know, say you want to fetch person versus fetching person.details. And you could use query parameters and stuff like that to figure that out. But it's just, GraphQL, I just don't know that it solves a problem. I've said that before, you know. Promise dot underscore for each, is that a custom thing? Yes. So this has been the subject of much debate, or not debate, but conversation today, because I've started collecting AJ script. So here is AJ script, and then here's the video. Kirglow, you missed the video from earlier where I kind of talked about it. So it's part of AJ script. It's the counterpart to promise.all. Promise.all does everything in parallel. Promise._ for each does one thing at a time. And I also have a promise.parallel that does in things at a time. Yeah, so I'm going to put another link to the Discord for anybody that's checking out the channel now and might want to come into the Discord as well. But there's been much discussion about this in the Discord over the past couple of days, or at least today. I have a hard time with knowing when days are. But there you go, if you want to join in on the Discord on that. Okay, cool. So now, all right, transaction, that's one that I would say that could be really nasty. What are the things that look the most likely? Oh, also, I need to go over here. There's just some junk files in here I think I need to get rid of. Okay, maybe not. Yeah. But let's see what of these. I kind of want to sort by length of, like, number of characters first. Because I think the things that have the fewest number of characters and that are all lowercase are the things that are most likely to get messed up. So let's redo our sort. I'm going to do this again. Let's redo our sort this way. Check out. By the way, as you're coming and going, if this is something that you like, feel free to give it a like. Not that I'm trying to tell you how to live your life, but I will tell you how to live your life. And sub and follow and all those things if you want to. It is my birthday in about 5 months. I keep saying this for what, 3 months now, except it's been different number of months each time. Got to hit 5K on the follows and subs, and 10 on the average viewer count, so I can make Twitch affiliate. You know, whatever that means. Bum 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 bum. All right, what did I stupid here? All right, we're gonna sort, and I always forget this. I look it up every time. I have it in my cheat sheet. I think I'm almost getting to the point where I can do this by rote. I think it's A minus B. Yeah, I think that's what it is. So A.length minus B.length should give us ascending order. It doesn't really matter which way the order goes. Ha ha ha. All right. I think this is more useful. Yeah. Because the things that are up here are the things that are likely to be messed up. Transaction. I really do want to highlight, if it's all lowercase, I want to highlight that in some way. So I think I've got an idea for how to highlight this, which is, let's do a map on here. Function word. And we're going to do if word equals word.to lowercase. We're going to return do word equals plus equals like that. Give ourselves a nice little, you know, and then return word. All right, this is going to work out great. Kill that. Get checkout dot. And then run it again. Okay, cool. So I probably should have checked for only has, but I don't think it's worth it at this point. But something that doesn't have underscores. Okay, so this looks pretty promising. I doubt any of these things that are particularly long or that have lots of capitalizations in them are going to be in conflict. But just reading through this again to kind of see where am I likely to have problems. Yeah, really right here. This is it. These are the ones that are likely to appear in comments or in other parts of the code. We got HubSpot, we got actions, we got compare, and we've got transaction. So what I need to look for is a place where these in particular start with a dot and look wrong. So let's go back to, we're going to check this out again. And we're going to check out restructure requires. And we're going to look for a place where, let's start with the one that's the longest, transaction. We're going to look for a place where it starts with a dot and then has a boundary on it. And might, so I think it was objection.transaction. So I think that's another thing I should have captured with this output is what the new bit in front of it is. Okay, in that particular case, there's only one place where that was. And then compare, I don't know what compare. Filter.compare detail parser. All right, so that would have been this one. Detail parser was that dot compare. So thank heavens nothing else was messed up with that. That's awesome. All right, let's take a look with actions. That one seems even more likely to have. Oh, look at that. Cron util actions. What are the odds? Pretty even, I'd say. Cool. And then HubSpot, we already did that one, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to do it again. HubSpot util. HubSpot util. Okay, looks good. And then last is going to be exec. Kind of interested on that one to see how that pans out. Child process.exec right there. That was it. Okay, cool. So I think that's looking pretty good. So I actually have a really high degree of confidence that there were not much in the way of mistakes, and that the mistakes that were made were probably just comments, because I don't think there's going to be. Here's where this could go wrong. Still, is maybe there could be something that's, say, part of a model. And I will check comments in just a second. So, you know, say there's a, well, I don't know. I don't see anything like that in here. I'm trying to look for stuff that has a, starting with a capital letter. Unique validation error. So let's say that there was a model called unique validation. when you do SQL queries with models, a lot of times you take the name of the class as a string for whatever reason. And so there could be a case where something was destructured and then replaced inside of a string that was a model name. That would be another area where I would look for something to be amiss. Um, okay, let me check comments over here. REST would be much better if people would read Roy Fielding's thesis. The hate us principle seems to have gotten lost in translation. Tell me more about that. What about it do you think is lost in translation? You mean that people don't do hate us? Or do you mean that the implementation that they created for that is not up to par? I think that REST, the general principle of REST, that you organize things at all and as appropriate, nest children items under a URL with the parents when it feels appropriate. I think that's generally a good idea. I think that there's also a good case for exceptions to that, which is when you want to say you want to get, when the user logs in, there's a bunch of stuff that it's going to be application specific. You're not necessarily going to know ahead of time for every application, although I guess that's true of any application. Everything's application specific because all data models are application specific, so never mind. It's as if I said nothing at all. But when a person logs in, you're going to want to get a bunch of stuff, and you know what that is. You know what the happy path of your user is and what the likely path of the user is for the most part. So when they log in, you go ahead and you fetch the first 100 items from their feed. You fetch their bookmarks. You fetch their top 10 friends, whatever. You just fetch that stuff. And you do it on login, and you don't need to make 10 different requests to do it. You can kind of have a endpoint that is hydrate session or something, and kind of just have it be part of the session endpoint or the profile endpoint. Probably profile endpoint would be better. And you just get the bulk of the data that you're going to need to cache that the user's going to want. And then as you need the little one-offs, as you need the greater detailed information or whatever, go and get that. And then also using a sense parameter. You fetch some data since the last time you fetched, and then whatever you get from updates, you update that local model. What's up, Honene? Do you want to say hi to everybody? You don't want to say hi to everybody? Okay. My wife doesn't say hi explicitly. Are you still using the saw out there? What are you up to? Oh, drilling holes. Still making the chair? Okay. See, I'm back here streaming. My wife is making furniture for us. I try to get her on camera, but she's just so shy, Okay. So you say, I'm not a very experienced developer. But what does that have to do with the Hados thing? By the way, let's bring up that link. Let me see. Roy Fielding REST. It's just an unfortunate name too. They shouldn't have called it that. Is this the one? Is this the paper? Go ahead and give this to everybody. For anybody that wants to read it. REST. Oh, starting with the null style. Yeah, I'm going to put this on my reading list too. I don't know if I've actually read this before. I think I know a lot of the things. Misappropriated REST dissertation. Interesting. Okay. All right, I'll queue that up for later. All right, so I've looked at these. Oh, good. It keeps the viewed state. Really, I just want to look for places. How else can I find places that are likely to have failure mode? Or I don't know, failure mode's not the right word, but bless me. That was a little bit too halfway. I decided a little late that I wanted to go full bore, and so it only came out half bore, which then that just sounds gross rather than awesome. You know, if you're gonna belch loudly for an audience, you really got to own it. And I just decided too late to own that one. But I hope that all of you got at least as much enjoyment out of it as I did. And I apologize otherwise, because it didn't have that nice roaring bellow. It kind of had, I don't know what the word would be. It sounded kind of damp. And nobody deserves that. Okay, so now that I'm kind of trying to drop the okay so. Queso. I'm trying to drop that bit. But now that I have a reasonable degree of assurance that I look through the things that are most likely to have failure due to the name, and I have a decent belief that whoa, this is scaring me. This is scaring me much. Oh, is it because it changed this? This became too long, and so that fell to the next. Okay. What I need, let me see if I can go back here. Ooh, that's long. What I need is to make sure that I hide white space. Yeah, we don't care about white space changes. That's not what's going to make or break things here. So when I look at this file, I don't want to see the 100 lines of white space changes. I just want to see the 2 lines where the change was effectual. Interesting. .catch res.send. We should absolutely probably not be doing that. I'm just going to make note of this for later. Let's put note. This looks not quite right. Just noting that for later. Okay. Just okay, and this was that whole big block where everything was changed just because of white space, but it's just prettier redoing it. That's okay. Anyway, what I was saying is I'm going to go through these fairly quickly from the perspective that I think I caught all the low-hanging fruit. And I feel pretty darn confident about the result of that process as a whole. And pretty darn confident that I ran it in production. I was able to log into the app, click around, and nothing broke immediately. So I'm just looking for really just any strings where something could have been replaced inside of a string, such as with, I guess, the database stuff, but I don't know. When we get down to models, I think that's where I have to be a little bit more careful. Anything that's here in routes is probably going to be fine. I have really low expectation for anything to have a critical failure in the routes. But when we get down to models, that's what I'll be interested to see, because there's so many strings that share class names and such. And I will take a look at comments again in just a second. I think I saw something in the corner of my eye. Probably somebody complimenting me on my belch because they don't know what a real good belch is like, and so they thought that that was pretty decent. That's probably what it is. But if they knew, they would be pitying me instead. Alrighty. The boring is getting pretty strong. Somebody give us a distraction. Look, a distraction. Where? Yeah, this is the first time I've ever used this feature, but this is something so tedious that I think it's really, really useful. But I'm so glad to have this done. Was it worth it? I don't know. We'll find out in time. I think that it will be in terms of being able to more easily refactor and restructure code and make more meaningful names of things. I think that it will shine over time. Okay. There were some strings there. Okay, these ones. Refresh timeline. No biggie. Okay, do I think that under util common, I don't know. I don't think anything there is going to be that interesting either. Okay, that. So we capture. Yeah, we've got a function for that, but I'm not going to worry about it. We've got a capture function that just logs and captures the error, but ignores it otherwise. Lets things move on. Update permissions. So we have all this Slack stuff that's basically for debugging, but carried its way through where if there's an error that happens, it sends it to the Slack channel, which actually it's smart. Okay, let me go check comments over here. Oh, so this repository has existed for a long time. I was wondering if you do testing, because that would give you a reassurance in a refactoring like this. Automated testing, that is. Yeah, so this is an old code base, and it's not written to be tested. It's very, yeah. I mean, you got to think of it this way. If there was the foresight to write the code to be testable and have the tests, there would have been the foresight to get around some of the other problems as well. There are some tests. We are building out a test library. In fact, I think that the next thing that I will be doing, I've got a little bit of a feature update that I need to make that's rather small. But once we get this, I started an SDK, and that's where I'm introducing testing the SDK that then basically functions as integration testing for the code. Okay, this is correct. All right, this is all correct. Good. Yeah, viewed. We're making major headway. Look at that, 52. I thought this was going to take way longer. Oh, I skipped one here? I just forgot to press the button, or thought it was part of the previous file or the next file or something like that. Okay. Okay, rec intervals days increase 1. All right. Yeah. So I like testing testable things, but a lot of things are just really difficult to test because what they are supposed to do actually isn't known ahead of time. My bigger thing would be break things down into smaller pieces that can work in isolation from each other. Optimize, the way I've said it before, I think is good. I think other people have said is optimize for the code to be thrown away. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do. And if you do that, you will probably write code that is fairly easy to test, and you can write your tests to the most fragile pieces of code. One thing that we need to do, which is on the docket, is to get everything. So we actually use, so PandaDoc is not as big as some of the other companies, but they have certain features that the other ones don't have. PandaDoc is similar in some ways to HelloSign, Adobe Sign, DocuSign. There's another 3 or 4 of them. It's similar to some of those, but it has some different features. And when they were smaller, we kind of got a custom deal with them to be able to have access to certain features that they were still figuring out their product, right? So they gave us access to features that aren't necessarily what are on their long-term roadmap, but they wanted to acquire customers at the time, so they were willing to do more custom things to acquire customers. So they acquired us on we have a one-off plan. No one else is on our plan. We are not part of the standard pricing structure that they have if you visit their website now. And we use parts of their system that probably aren't documented to their own developers. And this is something that I really want to get pulled out of our code base into its own module so that we can have some degree of tests and definitely better documentation. But this is also really difficult because it relies on a third-party system that has things like webhooks and such. So to mock out that data is possible, but kind of annoying and difficult. Yeah, so you can have end-to-end tests. Yeah, you can, but the higher level you go in the tests, right? So you get to end-to-end tests, the less granularity you get, the more it's difficult to test something specific, right? So, and end-to-end tests are the most fragile because they break anytime you change anything, they break. And it doesn't mean that the functionality broke. It just means that in an application that's evolving, there has to be there does need to be some level of intentional engineering when you're I don't know exactly what the words to express it are, but yes, you can add end-to-end tests onto anything, but those tests are just so fragile, and I think that integration tests are the most valuable. Unit tests are great when you need to test something like a regular expression or a parser, some snippet of code that does something really, really finite, where all of the ends of it can be known really well in any off by one cases. Integration testing is typically the most valuable because you can pick very specific features and see that a full flow of most likely several functions can complete, and you get some good fine-grained control. We can set up a user object, we can test it over certain endpoints. And end-to-end testing can be incredibly valuable because it tells you if the experience is actually working or broken for the user, but God, they're the worst to write and the hardest to maintain. So they need to be. Kinsey Dodds actually has a really great article on this. The testing trophy, I think is what it's called. He puts forth some really, yeah, really good stuff here. Yeah, static definitely should be your base for sure. Kenzie Dodds comes up with a lot of good analogies and things. But yeah, the static is where I love static testing. And I do enjoy a good unit test, but yeah, the bulk, I agree with him that the bulk of your tests should be integration tests. That whole units function together as intended. Okay. Oh, interesting. Wait, this doesn't feel quite right. Wait, why am I looking at... Oh, okay. Okay. Look at this. I'm thinking, wait a minute. This is not right. That's because I actually was in the wrong tab. How long was I in the wrong tab there for? Probably not very long. Just since I went to the trophy and back, right? Yeah. Okay. Hey, Owen Codes, what's up? I suppose that you code as well. Feel free to join in on the Discord and drop a link to your channel if you have a channel that you would like to share with us, and I will put that in here too. So there's the Discord again. Yeah, please, if this is useful to you, if it's entertaining, if it helps you fall asleep at night. I know I have one of those voices that just a lot of people find really soothing. They just put in the headphones and they just... I just choked on my spit. How did I do that? That was spectacular. Yeah. Actually, I wonder. I think I probably have one of the voices that you would have a hard time falling asleep to. But anyway, any of that, yeah. Likes, subs, follows. It's all for the birthday. The long-awaited birthday that's coming any month now. Okay. Actually, you know what? This right here, this absolutely 100% belongs on Creeds of Craftsmanship. I'm going to put this on Creeds of Craftsmanship right now. The testing trophy. I don't know if that goes up here though. It kind of does. So I also have his article on dry wet aha. He hit the nail on the head on that one too. There's a lot of things I really disagree with him on, and it's kind of surprising that you can agree and disagree on so many different levels with somebody. To me, that's surprising. Just because it seems that if we have so many common beliefs about certain things that would drive us towards common beliefs in other things, but then he quit his teaching job to do React Remix, which I think is about as dumb as GraphQL. Shh. Nobody say anything. It's got a lot of stuff that kind of sounds cool, but I don't really get it. And he tried to sell me on it, and he was super excited about it, but I just don't think it solves a problem that I have. It's just this is one of the things. So one buddy I have who codes, he says his biggest trouble is getting things to be clean code because the complexity lives somewhere. And so if the complexity has to live somewhere, it feels like, well, why bother at all? Because the complexity will still be there at the end of the day. You're just shifting it from one side of the fence to the other. You never get rid of the complexity. You just move it around. And I agree with that. But again, my argument is we can't know all of the things that we can't know what things are the most correct things. But what we can know are the things that are the most incorrect. And so when we shuffle the complexity from one side to the other, we may not know where the best side for the complexity to be is, but we can know where it's bad for the complexity to be. It's one of those negative tests. We can't get a true positive, but this is a lot of what science is based on is the negative testing, right? Hey Josh, I think there's actually quite a few kind of rants that I'm going on through here, or raves, or I don't know. That might be, I don't know exactly how we clip these up, but I think there's some good stuff in here. I think this is the one that might deserve a little bit of reading the transcript and just seeing if there's some stuff that you think might go well together. I'd appreciate that. Thanks. Y'all can say hi, Josh, if you want to. He is editor-in-chief. Well, maybe I'm editor-in-chief, but he's editor. Okay, I think this is all good. I'm going to take a look at the comments in just a second. I think I saw another one out of the corner of my eye. See, what I had to do is I had to change where Twitter was over there so that the ads on Twitter that change every couple of seconds are covered up by the comments. So the comments are on top of the Twitter bit. Okay, I need to go back up to the top of this one. There was something that I didn't feel like I quite got, and this is a longer file. Outside form. Yeah, okay. Now this is looking good. Okay, this one, why is, oh, it's just white space something, 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 something. Oh, okay, yeah, I see. So it got pushed over. All right. All right, I'm going to give that one a click. Hey, we've only got about 20 files left. Maybe I'll go to bed a little early after all. Famous last words. I've still got Mountain Dew. All right, that one looks good. All right, let's take a minute for distraction. All right, Owen Codes, what's up? Doing a full stack diploma in e-commerce websites. All right, software web dev. Boolean true or false. I don't know what that was in reference to, but Booleans are true or false, or undefined, or sometimes null, and sometimes not defined. Use of frameworks. How should I approach one using... Let's... Okay, Josh, here's another one to clip. A good topic to discuss / debate is use of frameworks. How should one approach using a framework and not completely entrenching yourself in it? Oh, have I got some ideas for you on that? Give me 2 seconds here, because I'm going to put this in with the Dan debate stuff as well. So let me go grab this. I'm gonna go put this in here. Woo. I got to get y'all on JavaScript Jabber as well. I keep on telling Chuck we need to do him live, but he's not as in on the live bus. He's an old fart, older than me by, I don't know, probably more than 5 years, I think. Yeah, pretty sure I'm. Anyway, but let me read this again. Let's start this off again. So a good topic to discuss / debate is use of frameworks, i.e. how should one approach using a framework and not completely entrenching yourself in it. So I think that's the key right there, is write your code so that you can use it in libraries as vanilla code. So there's generally no reason that you would need to write an SDK that's specifically for React, because you can just write HTTP functions and then you could use those functions as promise functions in React, right? So write libraries when you're writing your code. Have the library mindset. And again, I'm going to recommend the Effective Go, which you can check that out at creedsofcraftsmanship.com. It's in the list. It's called Effective Go, and I just put it in the chat yet again for, I think this is the third time this session. But you want to separate out useful code into libraries. So that is something that it does take a little bit of experience, I think, to learn how to do that, but you can get some resources that kind of help you learn how to design your packages. So that's one thing. I've seen over the years with Angular, with React, with other stuff, people like to stuff everything that they can into their service slash state slash controller slash component logic. So you've got a bunch of logic that really could just function on arrays and objects and strings, and for no particular reason is encapsulated and entrenched in this framework code where it doesn't need to be. It's perfectly useful, valid code, can be unit tested all on its own without any need for the framework. So I would think about that. If something can be unit tested, if something's a good candidate for unit testing, it's probably a good candidate to not be entrenched inside of framework code. That said, a little copying is better than a little paste, or a little dependency. So maybe there are things where it's rather than requiring something or importing something left pad, you could just copy those couple lines over and it's entrenched, but it's just because it's trivial. The other thing that I'll say is it's good. Everybody seems to say, I wish I got into framework X, but I wish I'd learned the fundamentals Y first. And I think there's some selection bias in this. And now I'm one that I propose that. I say you should learn the basics, master the basics. If you master the basics, nothing will ever be complicated. There's some quote like that was brought up on JavaScript Jabber a couple times, but I can't remember where it is or find it. But anyway, where the original source is. But that's true. However, frameworks, by definition, they give you the guardrails. So when you are so inexperienced that you don't know where to start, sometimes frameworks can be really good because they give you the path to be on. They give you the Rails. That's the whole reason that Ruby on Rails was called Ruby on Rails, is because literally it gives you the Rails. It gives you the default path. And I think that Rails was used as a term before that with video games. There's Rails style games, or games where you just kind of have a single path to go through and you choose where to shoot, but you don't have a lot of choice in your movement. So Star Fox is an example of this. There was a lot of arcade games are examples of this. You don't have any ability to explore or go outside of that frame of reference, but you can have fun and do the game or whatever, right? So, but frameworks, you also have to realize what you're trying to do. Frameworks are by definition cookie cutter as well. So if you're trying to do exploratory new things, a framework is probably not going to really help you, because it's going to have opinions that are for a particular purpose. And this is one of the problems with React, is that people I don't know how to say this even, but you should be able, again, negative testing. I talked about negative testing earlier in this session, and maybe we should clip that as well. But you should be able to answer the question, when should I not use this framework? So if somebody says, oh, you should really use this framework, they want to extol the virtues of it. But if you can ask them, well, when should I not use this? When would I know that it's the wrong idea to use this? they should be able to come up with an answer. And if they can't come up with an answer, they're not the right person to be talking to about that, because anybody should be able to acknowledge the limitations, right? So if I was trying to sell you a truck, and I really believe in trucks, and trucks have a lot of value and virtues, but if you were to ask me, well, when should I not have a truck? I might say, well, if you really just need a commuter vehicle to make a long drive every day, and you just kind of want to stay lean, you're better off with a little Honda Civic, right? I can be honest about that. Even if I want to sell you on a truck, if you say, well, when is a truck not the right thing to buy? I can think of a use case where the truck isn't the right thing to buy. And the same thing with frameworks. Anybody that's trying to sell you on a framework or extol its virtues should know it well enough that when you say, well, when should I not use this? They can give you the when you shouldn't use this. And that's something that I think is paramount importance, is not knowing when to use the framework, but knowing when not to use the framework, and letting that kind of be your guide. Because if it's particularly not good at X, that means that in the opposite direction, that it might be really, really good at X prime. I think I'm mixing mathematical terms here in the wrong way, but you know. So I'd also say, oh, I was going to say this earlier, but frameworks can be good even when you're not very experienced, because they give you a path to start on. They give you a frame of reference. They give you a way to think about the world and to think about code. So again, Rails, I think, is the canonical framework. It gives you a frame of reference to think about database models. It gives you a frame of reference to think about template systems. It gives you a frame of reference to think about controller and view logic. And a lot of frameworks do this. And it's good, because when there are no constraints and no opinions and the sky's the limit, it can be a little daunting to pick good paths. But if you learn a framework and you really try to adhere to its values and its virtues and what it's best at, and then you learn another framework that is different in some fundamental way. So for example, the difference between Svelte, Angular, and, or not Angular, React and Vue. Those three have completely different approaches that are all, they're all very different. But if you were to learn, if you were to do a to-do app in React and in Svelte and in Vue, you would learn a lot about programming in general, because you'd see different patterns and you'd kind of find what's your personal taste for what seems to apply. I don't think that you should go out and learn 20, 30 frameworks, but I think that it's good to learn at least 2, maybe 3, to some degree of proficiency, so that you have the ability within yourself to compare and contrast and decide when should something be a library, framework free, just vanilla, which I think, for, like I said, if it can be unit tested, that's a good litmus test. And then when you might prefer to use one over another for a particular use case, or just the way that your brain works and the way that your coding style works. And hopefully that's not React. Insane. Every framework wants you to write all of your business logic in a framework specific way. Maybe. I think they all kind of try to extol the virtues of how their controller logic system is going to help you, but in general, no. No, your business logic, you can write a lot of that without a framework. I had something on the tip of my mind. Gosh, I lost it. I was going to point to some article or resource or something. Give me a second. I'm going to see if I can find it. I'm just looking on creedsofcraftsmanship.com, because I'm assuming that whatever I was going to reference is probably something I've referenced before. So I'm just going to scroll through here. Maybe I could scroll through on screen so y'all can see what all this stuff is. I think it was in defense of not invented here. I think that is what I was going to bring up. Okay. I think the point that I was going to bring up was if it's a core business function, do it yourself no matter what. So the more core or proprietary it is to what you're doing, the more you want those pieces to be tightly integrated with the system that you're creating and not have it be encumbered by someone else's system. But again, I know that they're going to try to tell you to use this state management and this HTTP requester and da 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 da. But I think about it like this. If you wanted to export it for someone else to use generically, how would you export it? Most likely it's going to, because I saw this back in the Angular days with the services, you really only needed about 4 lines of code in your service file to be Angular. And it was basically the thing that you wanted to take the promise that your logic was dealing with, and you wanted to basically attach Angular's promise into that in some way. And I don't remember what it looked like, but and I don't even know if it was promises back then. But basically, you just wanted to make sure that you wrapped that function so that when its callback got called, that Angular's lifecycle system would kick off. And I think the same thing is true with a lot of these. Yeah, you might need a couple lines of wrappers so that it knows, for example, with React and the set hooks, is it called set hooks? What's it called? But it does need to know when its dependency hierarchy is going to fire off, when it's going to need to do its life cycle business. But that is it. I don't know too many cases where that can't just be a couple lines of wrapper code. And another thing that I'll say here, don't put React especially is terrible about this. It wants you to put all of your view code and business code together. No. Have your code that can give an object in a format that is amenable to the view. So have it do the things that it needs to do to set a property to true, to map the object from one format to the other, and then the object that you end up with should cleanly apply to any template system. That's my advice. I think that you're going to have cleaner code. Again, it's going to be easier to test. It's going to be more unit testable. And you're going to have cleaner view logic because your view logic is going to be really simple and really intuitive with just, here's a Boolean. If the Boolean, then this block. Otherwise, this block. Here's the pre-formatted strings, so you don't have to have a bunch of string logic inside, and so on and so forth. Okay. And I'll cut it there for real this time. That's the end. Josh, that's the end of that. I don't know exactly how to join those together, and there's maybe a couple of pauses in there that need to get pulled out, but yeah, that's the thing. Oh, and by the way, for the people that are watching the edit too, if that was useful to you, if you found that to be enlightening, it gave you something to think on, consider a like, a sub, a follow, and just know it's my birthday. Any month now. It's coming up. So, playing the birthday card every day. And today, it turns out, is my non-birthday. What is it, unbirthday? So very merry unbirthday to me, if you don't mind. Okay. And we're back. I was going through these files, and by the way, if you've got any follow-up, feel free to drop the follow-up. I hope that was valuable to you. I hope that it did give you something. All right. I'm going to look at this one more time because I was still distracted in my other mode of thought while I was parsing through. Okay, but yep, looks great. And yep. Ah, that was moving. That was throwing me off. Okay, boom. Yes, we're going to get it done. I'm kind of surprised, pleasantly so, but I thought there was going to be more weird one-off stuff. And really it was 3 or 4 files had 1 to 3 lines that needed adjustment. I do consider this to be a phenomenal success. And I could reuse this code to do lots of different types of similar refactoring. So in the code, I'm already identifying all of the single requires. So if I wanted to rename everything that was account that being required by models to account model, I could do that, or not being required by, but being the require is coming from the models folder. I could do that, and that would be really useful. There's a few of those where I think if we could prefix them with model, it would actually help us quite a bit. All right, and again, I was kind of in a different mode of thinking while I was talking through that. I was visualizing in my head, and I can't visualize in my head and read code correctly at the same time. Okay, so that one's just showing up weird because of what it's doing there. Please don't do this, please, for a variety of reasons. That's one we ought to put in content requests. Josh, will you put in the content requests for me to talk about the ellipses on the arrays? I forget what they're called. Expansion operator. Would appreciate that. Thank you. This is good. This is good. Oh wait, did I forget to click? See, what am I doing here? I am a little bit off my game right now. Okay. There we go. Yeah, this one should be fine. I actually want to reconsider. I don't think that we need this. Reconsider might be too strong. Let's say think on this. And I did see some movement out of the corner of my eye. So let me get through 15 more of these. Depending. Yeah, there's a couple places where I want to get rid of Brack's name out of here just because I don't want the code base to have that in there. There's still a few, I still have found a few magic numbers related to certain accounts in here as well. No more keys, but just some other stuff. Okay. 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 Oh, it's a doozy. Oh yeah, the transaction is one of the worst offenders. So another step for this is going to be to find requires that, I guess basically if I just look for requires that are indented, that aren't at the beginning of the file, where there's leading white space, where there's a require and there's leading white space. I want to find those because those are going to be, yeah, there's the two other things I want to do is get all the requires moved to the top, which I think that's going to be few enough now that we could do that by hand, any that are inside of functions, and make sure that we're never overriding module.exports, that we're always adding to it, not overwriting it. Because that's the other thing where the circular dependencies start to get you. Okay, looks good, looks good, looks good. Okay, let's check that one off. And then we check this one off. All right, 7 more. I'm just going to go for it. Don't stop me now. I'm having a refactor time. Having a refactor time. Ba-na-na-na-na. Don't stop me now. Wait a minute. Is this just dead code? I'm going to check this out real quick. That looks like this is inside of a commented out block. It's just dead code. Which I could have sworn we already had. Let's see. Never used, never used, never used, never used, never used. So this whole thing is just values never read. Values never read. Values are never read. What does this thing do then? Oh, I remember this. Okay, I know why. We're going to leave it. We're just going to leave this one alone. We still need to double check on this function. We need to see if we can get rid of it or not. We changed the way that some of the authentication and account creation stuff was done, and this used to track referrals when we'd get a referral from a partner, and then the user or the referral person created an account. But yeah, maybe we need to revisit it. I guess I just want to decide whether that's dead code or not. Are we going to bring it back, or is it fine to say that ship has sailed? We don't do things that way anymore. Last one. Boom. Cool. All right, I need to say something about this. And then I'll look at comments. I've reviewed this quite thoroughly. Both manually and with semi-automated inspection. Also, it's running in staging. Should I push all the way staging? Let's say development. We'll take it to staging tomorrow. I'm sure of it. Okay, let's go back over here and let's see. Let's see. The way I think about it, it should be easy to convert your React app into a CLI app. You'd only need to rewrite rendering part and keep most of your logic unchanged. Josh, will you clip this back in to the previous one where with this discussion, or cut it in, put it, yeah. The way I think about it, it should be easy to convert your React app into a CLI app. You'd only need to rewrite the rendering part and keep most of your logic unchanged. I think that is an awesome litmus test, Careglow. I think that is an awesome litmus test for if you are structuring your code well. 100%. Because if you're doing your logic in such a way that the object that you end up with could be just as well rendered in some way to the CLI with, say, oh, excuse me, maybe do some uppercasing. Oh, I said excuse me instead of bless me. I'm off my game today. I don't know if that's really game, but yeah, I don't know why I'm doing that. Maybe I'm becoming more of a cultured individual or something. Anyway, if you have the basic object and business logic the same, and all you're doing is deciding, is this getting rendered to HTML or is this getting rendered to the CLI, I think you've done a good job. And by the way, I would encourage anyone and everyone, especially people on the front end, to use and write some CLI apps, because the CLI does a lot of things that cannot be done well on the web. And I don't think that you should go out of your way to try to replicate everything that a CLI can do. but it is much more versatile, and you get a lot better auto completion. A lot of the ways that you interact with forms and menus is just really slick and nice. And I found myself wishing that it was easier to use form inputs on the web in the way that we can use things on the command line. For example, just anything that you do with fish, you know? I mean, look at that. I start typing and boom, it shows me what my options are. This is very, very nice. And sometimes you get that kind of sorta with the autocomplete lists, but it's not the same. It's just, yeah, good CLI apps. Every web developer, in my opinion, and I wish I could think of some off the top of my head that are particularly good. I think the Heroku app has some good stuff, if I remember correctly. But yeah, web developers should take some hints from CLI apps. My caution, though, is just that the web browser is pretty good. And before you go trying to change everything about how a web browser works and write a custom component for every darn thing, you should actually just get your crap to work with the browser and make sure you don't break what the browser already does well. For example, datetime picker. You may not like the way that Chrome's datetime picker works, but if you wouldn't rewrite the iOS datetime picker, which you probably wouldn't if you were creating an iOS app, why would you rewrite Chrome's datetime picker? People who are used to Chrome are used to the Chrome datetime picker. Unless the datetime picker is super core to your app, and even if it is, if you're writing a calendar widget, or not widget, but if you're writing a calendar application, if you're writing Google Calendar, then yeah, I could see where, okay, well, one, if you're writing Google Calendar, since you're also connected with the Chrome team, maybe you could just get them to give you the widget that you thought was best and make that the default browser widget, because that'd make a lot of sense. But anyway, the point being, first, just get it so that you don't break the things that are already there, because the browser is accessible by default. You don't have to do a bunch of crazy stuff to make a web page accessible. You just have to not break it. And yeah, that's my main thing. Is first, just don't break the stuff that already works. Then, as the next step, if you feel like our application really relies on the experience of this input working really well, because the type of person that's going to use this is going to use it every day, and they need this hotkey thing to work better, or they need this drag and drop thing to work better, or they need the way that the tab, I don't know. And there's tab ordering. There's just all the things that I can think of to say. They're not even relevant because the browser does the right thing already. But there are occasions. Even the autocomplete stuff is way better now. That's the autocomplete that's built into the browser, the combo box. You can now do a combo box. For years and years and years and years and years, we couldn't do a combo box in the browser. We had to have a custom component. Browsers now do combo boxes natively. And they even have, I think they even have a function that you can have a callback for, so that you can fill the, yeah. I think it's called data list. I'm trying to remember what this is, but anyway, there's just figure out how the browser native bit works for whatever you want to do first, before you go breaking the web and people's phones and browsers and desktops, etc. I don't know. Maybe that is kind of a different rant clip. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so here's what I'm going to say. We had a good time tonight. We got some good work done. I think that I thought it was going to take me longer to do this. I thought I was going to run into more snags, but I didn't. And I could either stay up a bit later and go a little longer and try to take on another task, or I could get a good night's rest and have the illusion that tomorrow I'm going to be really focused and make up for any lost time today. I think I'm going to choose the latter, because if I pick up something new at this point. I don't think, oh, this is not what I wanted to look at right there. Oh, and I do want to bring this over for later. Oh, I forgot my train of thought. Oh. Okay. I do want to do something with this. No, not this. With this. The last thing I want to do, I'm going to get this up in a private repo for right now, because it's not in a state where I feel that someone else could really use it. I'm not sure when I'm going to document it, because this is something where I feel like it's extremely highly valuable. And again, if you want this, then let me know about it and we'll see what we can do to get this in a place where you could use it as well. But I know this is going to be valuable in the future. This was a lot of work to get this working right, but it's also not something that I've got a good reason. I just don't know that too many other people are going to have the use case. And when I have the use case again, then I will know that I did this. Restructure.js. Rewrite requires with sane paths and no restructure destructured requires and rewrite require paths sanely. Okay, we're gonna call that. Yeah, I don't want to lose it. I don't want to be lost sands of time. Some of the stuff that I did for this, I also did for base tag. There's the base tag rebase. Will rewrite here requires to use the $sign. So if you've got a big project like this one and you want to be able to just look in a file and be able to tell where things are, again, great for refactoring and stuff. And just great for general visibility, works with all your tooling, VS Code, Vim, whatever it is, where it recognizes file paths, it'll still recognize it. So anyway, anything that, recognizes how node modules works. Okay, get remote add origin. Okay, there we go. And then I'm gonna add restructure. I'm going to add, I think we need, there's a little snippet of AJ script in here. We don't need the module map. Oops. Oh, you know what we need first, though? We need to get pull, dang it, get stash. I don't have an initial commit yet. I don't know what to tell you. Updating an onboard branch. Okay, origin, main. Why are you going to be so like that? Okay, here's what we're going to do. This is probably going to break the world. Kind of in a Wheel of Time sort of way. Just the dragon, right? I call this initial commit, and then I'm going to pull origin. And I have rebase set by default. Ha! Did that work? Yes, it did. Oh, that's hilarious. All right, so there it goes. Cool. So there we are. So I've got it in a safe place. I think I'm going to add a little bit more to this README just so that I'll know how to use it in the future. So node restructure.js path to project source. That's how it works. Yep, we're gonna go with that. Okay, so now I've got it in a safe place. I'll come back to it because I will need this again, and I'll come back to it at that point, or I'll need to change from imports to requires or requires to imports, and that's got half the battle done there. So there we are. I feel good about that being saved. All right. Okay. So for those of you that joined in, thanks for joining in. For those of you that didn't join in next time. You know, we had a good time tonight, right? I think we did. I did. Thumbs up if you got them. Thumbs down if you don't. Share with someone that you like if you liked it. Or share with someone that you don't like if you didn't like it. Yeah. And then, you know, check out the doobly-doo down below. Click all the things. Follow, sub, yada, yada, yada. And I will catch you around next time. Hey, thank you. You have a good one as well. You also be well. And, yeah. Adios.